So initially I was thinking, hey, let's do Wolverine in The Boys. What if Wolverine was in The Boys or The Boys universe? And a lot of you have been enjoying videos like that, but I decided, hey, let's do things a little bit differently this time around. What if we had Wolverine actually replace Soldier Boy in The Boys? For some reason, I felt like this was a pretty good swap out. Now, it's not perfect, I'm not going to lie to you. Of course, Wolverine isn't your typical soldier type. He is to a certain degree, but he's not your typical Soldier Boy type. Now, there are some similar traits between him and Soldier Boy, but there are some interesting things to truly talk about, especially with what we are dealing with. Now, for starters, how would his relationship be with his quote-unquote squadron? Would they still turn on him? Well, I'm gonna be honest, they probably still would. Because here's the thing, just because Wolverine would have been a little bit better than Soldier Boy, still being pretty much distant, still being that, as we know him, a very lone wolf, like of a strong moral code type of person. He is very lone wolf type of guy, but it doesn't mean that these people, or the people that he works with, your Black Noirs and so on, it doesn't mean that they won't feel the need to, well, replace him, get rid of him, and be done with him. Because he's still very, very temperamental. He's still angry at times. He probably would snap on them from time to time. And you might get something similar to him and Soldier Boy in that regard. Now, it wouldn't be anywhere near as bad in my opinion, because, well, Wolverine or Logan doesn't really care that much about the spotlight. Soldier Boy, on the other hand, he cared about it just a little bit more. And that's obvious with the whole Black Noir scenario, where he basically took a part away from Black Noir that would have put him on the map a lot more than he would have ever been in the first place. Now, Wolverine himself doesn't really care about the publicity, but him not caring about the publicity might actually hurt him in this aspect, or kind of in this idea, because him not caring, him not wanting the fame, him not really giving an F about it, might actually kind of stump everybody that surrounds him. For example, we have people like Black Noir, who definitely takes the forefront of it all, but we have more people as well. Your Crimson Countess, Gunpowder, Mindstorm, the TNT Twins, and so on. We have these people that are definitely trying to make a name for themselves, so having somebody who doesn't really give an F about actually making a name for yourself, just in the regard of being famous, making a bunch of money, Wolverine or Logan doesn't care about those things, at least not in the normal reality we talk about him. Maybe in this different world, if he really grew up here, it would be a little bit different, but we're still going to stick to the original principles of what Logan was based on. Now, he wouldn't really care about these things, nowhere near as much as some of these other people. So there's a good chance he would still get turned on into basically sent into the Russians and put away for a while. Now, there's a couple things to talk about in terms of some very scary and interesting scenarios, because this is where we start going a little bit more into the actual Boys storyline. And we're going to talk about the birth of Homelander. Now, how would Homelander be born in this scenario? Obviously, we would most likely still have Logan in some sort of way, give his DNA, you could say, in a short term, to create Homelander, create what he is and create who he is. And this could possibly make him even freaking stronger. And the idea of him being the upgrade of Soldier Boy would go even further beyond this, because this version of Homelander, well, he may have all the same powers he normally would have, but he might even have the insane, intense, and also ridiculous amount of regeneration that the Wolverine we know and love currently has. Now, this is one thing to talk about, because this is very serious, that if Homelander had the regeneration of someone like Wolverine, we'd be having a different conversation. A conversation that would borderline make Homelander invincible. A Wolverine that would eventually show up just like the way Soldier Boy did. It might not even matter if he did in the first place, because of the regenerative factor that would be gifted to Homelander. It might be a different level of insane. And this is where things kind of change to a certain extent, because we got to talk about what the Russians would do to Wolverine, or what the Russians would do to Logan. Now, for starters, we got to talk about the idea of him not actually getting this this kind of compound V canceling, superpower canceling thing in his chest. He probably wouldn't get something like that, because they would definitely want to base it off of the powers he currently has. And this, in my mind, is when he would actually get his adamantium claws, and when he would get his kind of adamantium skeleton, and stuff like that, right? And he would have his insane healing factor, he would have his adamantium skeleton and claws, and at this point, I mean, he would be a force to be reckoned with. He would be insanely powerful, insanely strong, just like our typical Wolverine. But like I said, if Homelander did get the regenerative powers, there's really no way of stopping him to a large extent. I don't foresee something happening where we can actually stop Homelander if he had some insane regenerative powers with his already outstanding durability. Imagine having a Homelander who nobody has really hurt to this point. Not even a scratch, not even a little bit of blood bleeding through his arm, nothing. So imagine the feeling of someone sawing off Homelander's arm, boom, in one swipe, just for it to regenerate back almost instantaneously. That would be something terrifying, something absolutely horrifying, something that nobody would really understand how to kind of approach. They would probably ensue in chopping Homelander or a body part or a limb, whatever you want to say, something off, and then boom, it was already back. Oh, the room would fall silent. Everybody would realize that they are royally screwed. What are they supposed to do to a Homelander with that superhuman like healing factor? Something that would be insanely powerful. But let's scratch that for a second, because there's obviously ways you could go around it. I know some of you would probably argue, even with the healing factor, maybe with the adamantium claws and Wolverine's, strength that we know he has, he probably could still beat Homelander. Possibly. But we all are kind of giving the powers of Wolverine to Homelander at that point. So there's a good chance that Homelander, on top of all that, with his heat vision, with all of the stuff he already has, the flight, super hearing, whatever, right? All of those things, he would be able to be a way more overpowered Wolverine just because of the DNA that was basically given to him and made in a petri dish type of thing. Now, this is when we would kind of ensue in this idea of, could Wolverine defeat Homelander? I think a lot of us will sit here and agree that there's no way Wolverine cannot defeat Homelander. What I mean by that is there's no way Wolverine loses to Homelander. Let's make that very clear. I mean, obviously, there's probably certain Wolverines that may lose to him. I'm not as kind of intelligent or read up on those type of Wolverines, but to my understanding, the mass majority of Wolverines will defeat Homelander. But that's not necessarily the point. That is a part of the point, but not necessarily the point. Because we are kind of divulging into this now, when does Wolverine awaken? Let's just say he awakens the same time Soldier Boy does. They're trying to find a way to defeat Homelander. Trying to find a way to actually stop the one and the only Homelander. Now, they have to use Soldier Boy, but this isn't Soldier Boy. When they reawaken him, this is Logan, aka the Wolverine. And you gotta think that this Wolverine wouldn't necessarily want to mess with, help, or even be associated with the boys. We know that he is that lone wolf type, and we know that he hates the idea of kind of working with others to a large degree. I mean, it took him a lot to work with the X-Men, and that's just part of his personality and a part of who he is. Now, to get revenge on the entirety of the Payback people, all the Payback people that are basically that basically put him on the radar of the Russians, that put him in that prison, that made him suffer for so long. I could see Logan or Wolverine going on an escapade to absolutely destroy every last one of them, from Crimson Countess all the way to Black Noir, Mindstorm, Gunpowder, Swatto, the TNT twins. Every single one of them would would be destroyed and would be cut to little tiny pieces by the one and only Wolverine. And this would be a spectacle. Honestly, it would be a lot crazier to watch than even Soldier Boy hunting them down and destroying them. Because honestly, there would be even more kind of venom and ferocity here. Not because Wolverine is more, well, I was going to say not because he's not more brutal, but it's really because this probably would hurt Logan even more, would emotionally hurt him even more, because these people, he saw them as somewhat like, well, his friends. Now, they weren't amazing together. They weren't perfect side by side. This group was kind of an annoyance to him, but these were the people that he was pretty solid with, and he never did anything bad to them. On the contrary, Soldier Boy, he did. But they did all of this to stop Wolverine or Logan because they were selfish, because they wanted fame, they wanted fortune, they wanted everything they possibly could get, and Logan was kind of holding them back away from doing that. Logan was more on the side of, let's end the wars, let's end this fighting, let's end this countless death or countless deaths and so on. But they wanted fame, they wanted fortune, they wanted money, they wanted everything you could possibly get in a matter of seconds. They wanted it all. They wanted it absolutely all. So that's why they got rid of him. So the venom in destroying and eliminating every last one of these people would be at a totally different level. I mean, it would be disgusting to watch him rip through every single one of them, and that's the reality of it. I can see Wolverine still making those same decisions to kill and off those people, but would he really be okay with taking on Homelander? Now, this is the question to be asked, because Wolverine himself or Logan would be offered this deal, like, I will help you find these people to eliminate them or kill them, and then I want you to help me with a Homelander issue, aka Billy Butcher. He wants to help him. Now, this would kind of eliminate some issues that were initially popping up when dealing with Homelander. Now, let's get to the original scenario where they're all there ready to go, and, well, normally Soldier Boy was about to unleash a blast that was going to kill Homelander, or at least get rid of his powers, but also probably kill Ryan. Now, that's not good, right? In the book of Billy Butcher, you gotta save Ryan. Ryan needs to be saved, blah, 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 right? So in this scenario, Wolverine, well, he doesn't have something in his chest that's gonna blow somebody up into a million pieces and is going to get rid of their powers. This is gonna be an old-fashioned one-on-one fight. And frankly, if they didn't already have this one-on-one fight in the first place back in, Herogasm, if that fight didn't happen already, well, let's just say this one would be a perfect one, because we've seen what happens when Homelander is actually, well, kind of picked at in his most vulnerable areas. We saw literally Queen Maeve slam a pencil into his ear. Now imagine if Wolverine decided to use one of those beautiful adamantium claws and decides to slice through some weak spot, maybe an ear, maybe an eye, maybe some part of his body. Maybe it doesn't matter. Maybe his body is not durable enough to stop adamantium from breaking through the skin. Homelander would be cut to absolute pieces with Wolverine as a victor. But here's the thing. That's if he doesn't have the absolute insane durability and regeneration of Wolverine. I mean, if he did, we'd probably be having a different conversation. I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, and I'm sure you guys will. I believe that adamantium does have some sort of healing reduction property. I know it's not the greatest thing to stop healing entirely, but at the same time, it does have healing reduction properties. that allow basically the claws and stuff to retract and go out and stay out without his wounds covering them entirely. But here's the thing: if the adamantium is able to stop the regeneration to a certain degree, it doesn't mean that it's fully, which means that if Homelander did have regenerative powers, which by the way would probably be amped up because of the DNA he got from Logan, and also on top of that the durability of him being Homelander in the first place with the powers of basically like a Superman, which I know it's very dumbed down version of Superman, but still it's kind of in the same ballpark. And having those aspects would make this fight that much more difficult. But there also has to be a bit of an asterisk on it, because that's if you don't also give him the thing in his chest that would essentially make Homelander be erased in terms of the powers that he has off the face of the earth. Now, this is where things get a little bit different than your good old Soldier Boy, because if he did have the power to basically erase the powers off of Homelander, and Homelander still had the regenerative factor, which possibly he could. Now, if he did have the power still, we would be dealing with a spot where Ryan is right there, and Ryan basically, or Billy Butcher doesn't want Ryan to be hurt. And this is where Soldier Boy and Wolverine are going to be different, like far different. Of course, Butcher would tell him like that is, someone that he wanted to protect, that is his wife's son. And as much as basically he hates to admit it, he promised her that he would protect him no matter what. And Logan, he's going to understand that. He's going to understand that. Logan is a hero to a large degree, even if he does some bad things. Like we've talked about before, not every single hero has to have some sort of no-kill policy. Now, is it probably for the best to not kill people? Of course. Logan may not follow that to an absolute pitch-perfect degree, but Logan isn't your kind of egotistical Soldier Boy who doesn't give an F about anyone. He would probably try to realize very quickly that this young boy, this person by the name of Ryan, he probably shouldn't allow him to get caught in the crossfire. So yes, things would get settled down pretty quickly, and Ryan would be basically placed out of harm's way, leading to a fight like normal, with Wolverine facing down with Homelander, but also with the help of Butcher and many others, leading to Homelander being defeated in one way or the other. One way being chopped up to little bits, another way actually having the powers to erase Homelander's powers entirely, and Wolverine has that power, of course, with the whole Russian kind of situation, and that's how Homelander would be defeated. Because honestly, if you put Wolverine in this scenario, which ironically enough is a lot more similar than you would think, Wolverine does have a background in being in kind of like army-like scenarios and or war-like scenarios. He was flat out in, I believe it's either the military or the army. You guys can correct me, of course. Some sort of military force he was involved in. So it's not too outlandish to think that the Wolverine or Logan would be in a scenario like Soldier Boy, but be handling it quite a bit differently than Soldier Boy would have ever. But I will stick to the idea that this world is cruel, and this world, the boy's world, is very, very different than his own. So even though maybe personality-wise, maybe as a person, he's a better person than Soldier Boy ever would be, it doesn't mean the former members of Payback, wouldn't still turn on him. I mean, money talks. Money absolutely talks. So I could still foresee Gunpowder, Crimson Countess, Black Noir, Mindstorm, and so many more, the rest of the Payback crew still turning on Wolverine, or at least Wolverine in the place of Soldier Boy, and getting him captured by the Russians, and the Russians planting that powerful thing in his chest, but also the adamantium claws that we once knew in the original world in his body as well. Of course, adamantium skeleton and adamantium claws are included in our fantastic Wolverine special. And as always, though, I would love to hear what you guys have to say. How do you think this would go down? What would happen if Wolverine, or the Wolverine, was to replace Soldier Boy in The Boys? I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Maybe you'll get a different video out of me later on about what I think would have happened in the first place if Wolverine was just in The Boys in general. Maybe we'll talk about a different version of Wolverine. Maybe we'll talk about how he could get his powers in the show itself. I'm not too sure yet, but I felt like I didn't want to do your typical what if Wolverine was in The Boys. I wanted to talk about him replacing Homelander Soldier Boy, replacing Soldier Boy in the first place. But as always, I hope you guys enjoyed. Please, I would love to hear what you guys have to think in the comment section below. Make sure to leave a like, leave a sub, and leave a comment down below, all that good stuff. And if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.